with author and critic John Updike.
John Updike, in the past several months, whenever I've told people that you and I were going to have this opportunity to spend 3 hours together, the first thing they say when I say your name is rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
For someone, as our opening just indicated, who has been so prolific, is it a joy to have created a character that is so well known, or is something other than that for you?
No, it's a joy, and I'm very grateful to Rabbit for the prizes he's won and the fact that the books have done well. And they were a pleasure to write, too, as I remember it. It's been a while since I wrote one, but when after a gap of 10 years I'd pick one up, somehow he was ready. I had him named. I had his wife and friends named, and so in a way you have a running start. And something about that imaginary area always excited me. It was exciting to be in Brewer and its environs somehow. It all savors of my boyhood terrain, and so in a sense it was deeply familiar to me. And one thing or another, no, they were fun to write, and as books go, fairly easy to write. I did feel that maybe 4 was enough. In fact, the last word of the 4th book is enough, but then I added a kind of a half book, a novella, 10 years later. But I used to resent it when people would murmur, "Rabbit, rabbit," when I go by. It doesn't happen too often anymore. I'm not really exactly like him. A lot of his thoughts and mine are shared, and we have the same rough background, but he stayed and I left, I guess is one way to put it.
Every 10 years, readers were at least treated to a look back on the decade filled with historical features of the decade and an understanding through his eyes of some of your thoughts of that. Will you catch me up to date on your view of America right now, 2005?
People ask me what would Rabbit make of Iraq and Bush and all that, and I really don't know. A lot of Rabbit's observation is about the small changes in women's dress. He's very interested in women and how they dress, and there have been quite a few changes in what is permitted and encouraged, in fact, among female dress. I remember he was very struck by the roller skating, the online skating phenomenon, and women began to jog outside. So I don't know what he would see now. Certainly he would, as he was loyal to Nixon during the Vietnam years, he'd have to be fairly loyal to Bush, but maybe less so. You know, all passion spent in a way. The older you get, the calmer you get, and the less real news items become. One thing that strikes me as a writer is how computerized the world has become in the 50 years since I've been writing, and really in the last 20. Suddenly I feel, for almost the first time, out of it. I don't really understand how to move around on the internet. I don't really dig the lingo. So I'm in that unfortunate position for being an American writer, of being in a way locked out of the now of it and increasingly locked into the then of it.
My question actually was not so much how Rabbit would have viewed America, but how you're feeling about the country now.
I think Iraq is kind of like a headache that won't go away, and all those headlines, 10 more, 6 more Marines killed, is very painful, especially since it's hard to see progress or put any very clear label on our objective. I was an adolescent in World War II, which had no such problem. It was very clear: beat the Japs, beat the Nazis, kick Hitler out. And now in this more ambiguous and ambivalent world, I've been a Democrat all my life, and so I wouldn't be sorry to see George Bush for all of his good qualities. He does have many good qualities, really, and he's able to make contact with, I think, the average American in a way not every political candidate put forward by the Democrats does. That said, though, I wouldn't be sorry if the Democrats weren't elected in 2008, and I'll follow with interest the elections in 2006.
Your current book is a collection of essays on American art, but I've heard that you're already talking about a book that you've finished and sent to the publisher for Spring, which is a book about a terrorist.
It's called Terrorist. It's about a terrorist, only one. I mean, it's not exactly a thriller, although I mean it to be kind of exciting toward the end. But it's really about an 18-year-old boy in northern New Jersey who is the product of a mixed marriage. His mother is an Irish-American redhead, kind of arty and flighty, and the father is an Egyptian fellow student who abandoned her and the infant boy at his age of 3. So he's become, out of loyalty to the absent father, a Muslim, and well, take it from there. I don't want to tell the whole plot, and it's a plot of which I had to kind of feel my way, since I'm not a native of northern New Jersey, nor indeed a resident, nor am I a Muslim, but I tried to bone up on the areas where I wasn't too familiar, and it's meant to be a kind of a take on terrorism now and the whole world situation, really, the angry Islam, and beyond angry Islam, I think the fact that the world seems more and more painfully and starkly divided between the haves and the have-nots, so that I take indeed the whole Arab resentment of the U.S. is one facet of the general resentment of the third world for the first world, which finds itself coping with unwelcome immigrants and racial minorities that they never. This is more Europe, not America. But yeah, it's a world in process, as the world always is.
I wonder, you mentioned the internet before. We live in an age of lots of raw information coming at us as interested citizens, from live reports to raw data on the internet. Where does your art fit in for an understanding of the world in a time like this, with so much raw information coming at people?
Well, how much raw information gets to me, probably a lot less than gets to you, but I do read the newspaper. An old habit which I picked up from my grandparents many years ago, and I tried to watch the TV news, although I don't always get it. And to that extent, I try to keep up, but I'm not really very politically savvy or interested in a way. I am interested in the American phenomenon, in this nation of 200 years plus old, and a kind of experiment. In fact, not a kind, it was really an experiment when it was created, and where's it going to go now? As a patriotic, really, American, even an old-fashionedly patriotic one, I'm concerned to read that the world hates us. I don't see much evidence of that in Europe, by the way, where I just was, but maybe I didn't expose myself to it. I was one tourist, and tourists are kind of welcome, and people are generally pleasant. But I think it's true that the American virtue, both strength and goodness, is in question now, and I'm sad to see that. Sad, but perhaps it's inevitable that no country can remain top dog forever, and to remain top dog in terms of power is one thing, and to remain top dog in terms of morality is another. I think we were a symbol of opportunity, and immigrants seem to still want to come here. It's still there are more people trying to get in than trying to get out. But there's a certain tarnish on everything now. That maybe will go away.
For the reader, then, for those people out there who are picking up your novels, how do they help them in this world, understand this world?
Depends a little bit on which novel they pick up. Certainly, all of them begin with some sense that I have some news to impart, some information as far as the texture of life or the incidentals of life, to what you can't write a novel without feeling you're telling something that hasn't been quite said that way before. Rabbit Run was written because I, through my father's eyes, as well as my own experience, had observed that there are a number of Americans who were great athletes and sort of stars as adolescents had anticlimactic lives.